Just a few quick things.
Okay.
Everyone knows that orange doesn't rhyme, but also anal doesn't seem to rhyme with anything unless someone can send us a word that rhymes with anal.
Yes, I'm inquiring minds want to
So
know.
just throwing that out there.
If two aspiring songwriters and poets are stumped, so
I have a great lyric for anal, but how do I get out
how
of
did that
it?
couplet?
How do I back out of it?
Oh man, Ugh, the eternal question. Hey, this is Amrita and Andrew. We're on a podcast journey to find our way through freelance life. If you're thinking about taking a leap off the beaten path in any part of your life, our totally inexpert advice is don't think twice.
So you have written here top sheets, and I'm not sure what you mean by that. I mean, I know what a top sheet is, but I don't know what your opinion is. But I just want you to know that I have an opinion too.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad because I want to know your take on top sheets.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you there was a time in my life when I didn't use a top sheet at all. I thought top sheets were for the fussy.
Oh my God, I'm so with you.
And then some corner was turned. Some happened in my life emotionally. I don't know what happened, but one day
And
I
it was
find myself.
irrevocable.
Now
once you crossed over.
I crossed over, and now I'm for the top sheet all the way.
Top sheet all the
Yeah,
way.
is this your opinion too?
Oh, absolutely. I have more to say about it than that. But yes, I'm pro top sheet. And I read an article about how millennials don't believe in top sheets. I mean,
Yeah.
I know this is like that is the most like trend piece.
You actually
bullshit.
read the article?
No, I saw a headline about how millennials don't use top sheets. I have a lot of questions about that logistically.
Because they're
Then you have
lazy.
But that takes so much more work to wash a duvet cover with the frequency that a sheet should be
Millennials
washed.
also don't wash duvet covers.
So they're just covered in like dead skin cells everywhere.
Yeah.
Anyway, whatever. Point being, top sheets, very pro top sheet.
Yeah.
And I don't understand. I mean, I used to be in the camp where I never used one.
Yeah.
And now that I do, I can never turn back.
Luxurious.
Now, here is a thing that I recently learned about top sheets,
What?
courtesy of one and only Martha Stewart.
Uh-huh.
Printed top sheets
Go on upside down.
go on upside down.
Duh. Who were you raised by?
Oh, stop it. Stop it. Because I actually thought about this after having seen your bed.
No, I don't do
You don't
it.
do
I
it.
don't
Okay.
do it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were being serious and I was going to defend this knowledge. I was
It's so when you flip it around, when you make
So
your...
when you get into the bed, the print is on you. You see the print when you get into the bed. It's for you. It's for you.
Oh, I didn't think that's the reason. I thought it was so you curl it back around.
Yes. Yeah, I guess that's true too. But I just
It's
felt like
not for you. Is that what Martha Stewart said?
I don't know. I guess that's how I interpreted it. But yes, you put the print facing down on the top sheet so that, like,
That's the way it's done.
That's the way it's done.
She also, by the way, if anyone has trouble getting your
Oh.
duvet and your duvet cover together,
Oh,
I mean your
that's not what I was going to say.
comforter
Okay.
into your duvet cover.
I do. In fact, you one time suggested that we make a workout video that was just about getting your
I'm currently developing a program. It's a little boutique gym, and all you do for 45 minutes is just put duvets into duvet covers
Yeah, I mean, I think that would sell
as
well.
fast as you can.
I'm sweaty
my
just
brother.
thinking about that. Like literally in the dead of winter when I try to like get my comforter like cover on, it's like I have to crawl all the way inside of it,
Yeah.
like fully inside of it. I'm like dripping sweat in December. Like I need that video.
Yeah.
The other thing that Martha Stewart famously has, and I think probably most people who have weird interest in sheets already know this. If you don't know how to fold your fitted sheet, Martha Stewart
Excellent tutorial.
has got you. She's got you. Anyone can learn.
It's a complicated thing, but you can do it with a little practice. I will say one more thing about top sheets, though.
Please.
Here's a little tip.
Okay.
They're usually sold with the fitted sheet.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
Because if you can get a top sheet that is one size up from the sheet, from the bed sheet.
Whoa.
So queen for a full size.
You're about to blow my mind.
Know, king size or queen size. It is so much more comfortable when you're sleeping with someone else in the bed
Oh,
you have
because then you
so
don't
much
get
more
burrito
leeway.
sheets.
Yeah.
Yeah. where like they all get tangled down
Right.
in one corner. Oh, that's brilliant.
And like you're not fighting over it because you have plenty of space. So that's my tip.
I'm really glad that that we had this much to say about top sheets is a sign of our advancing age, but also like makes me really
And that
happy.
we've thought about it, that we both were like a non-top sheet transition to a top sheet, as if like, I mean, maybe we're just one of millions. I hope people are at home like, me too. Me too. I remember that moment. It was a Tuesday in autumn.
Oh my god. So, this is what happened. I'm standing on the escalator in one of those subway stations that has like, it's like a mile underground. Yeah. And there's a woman standing in front of me, and I decided not to walk. So I'm standing on the escalator. There's this woman right in front of me, and she is really put together from like the knees up. She's wearing like a really nicely tailored navy blue dress. Her hair is like pulled back really like elegantly. She's a young woman. Looks like she is trying to like be a business baron or something. Yes. You know, she's like going in there to be an investment banker or whatever. But from the knees down, I scan all the way down, and she's wearing the saddest, batteredest pair of ballet flats.
Ballet flats.
With like a little scalloped edge. And it was clear that this was her outfit, though. It wasn't like these were not like her commuting shoes or whatever. She wasn't carrying a purse or anything, so yeah, these were her shoes, and it just really brought the whole outfit down in a way. So that years and years and years ago, you told me that I needed to retire ballet flats. Not that I needed to do anything. You didn't tell me that I needed to do anything. You just commented that the ballet flat was a bad statement. It was a bad look. It's a bad look. It's a look that falsely that you think it's going to convey professionalism, but in fact it's quite the opposite.
It doesn't do anything well.
It says like I'm a wage slave. It says I'm a middle manager.
I'm a administrative assistant.
Yeah. And
it says, in fact, I eat Subway for lunch. Right?
So at first I took this to mean that you were saying that like you only liked to see women in heels, and I was like, well, you know, we do have to like be comfortable because it's New York City and we got to commute around or whatever. But I've now come to understand the wisdom of what you were saying, because I saw, and it all came to me, doubled back to me when I saw this woman, and I was like, wow, her shoes say I'm going nowhere fast, and the rest of her says like I'm a CEO. Yeah. So I remember very vividly when one of my roommates moved out, and she left me like a pair of what I at the time were like, oh, these are like Coach flats, and then I showed them to you, and I was like, look what she left me when she left, these ballet flats, and you were like, yeah, that's because she has moved on to like a real professional leadership job, and you're still like a sad administrator.
You make me sound so mean. And that's not the truth. Let me just lay out my reasoning for why the ballet flat is something to be avoided, which I'll also clarify in this statement that a ballet flat, when I say ballet flat, I mean the true ballet flat. I don't mean like a flat or a structured flat or like a loafer. Yes. All those things are good. Yes. I mean a real, true, shitty Lumpy, ballet flat.
No support,
like toe, like the toe
rounded
crevices,
toe.
Like you can see like the toe cleavage. You can see like half of their like dry footbed.
Yeah, you're painting a picture.
This is gross. So, but the thing that bothers me about it, other than it looking like trash, is that it also provides no support, or so I've been told.
Yeah, I was gonna say, which you only learned that from me. That yes, it's actually,
it's not even a comfortable
not
shoe.
that comfortable of a shoe. It's actually not that comfortable a shoe. It has no arch support. It's only comfortable in comparison to like a stiletto.
Right. There are
and not
plenty
even
of
all
other
stilettos.
options.
Like actually, some high heels are more comfortable than ballet flats. So yes, so structured flat for professionalism. If you're a New Yorker, you're running around, totally understand. You don't want to be in pumps all day.
Right.
Or maybe not even any of your day.
There are plenty of like stylish sneakers.
Loafers, structured flat. even a sneaker, depending on your workplace level of professionalism required. But steer clear.
So
of
if you're wearing ballet flats to this day, I want you to put them on, and I want you to go into the mirror, and I just want you to give yourself a long, hard look and ask the hard questions of your life. Mm-hmm. Am I happy where I am? Am I going anywhere? And if I'm going somewhere, can I get there in these shoes? And I guarantee you that last answer will be no.
That's some hard truth. Okay, tell me.
So, I have a little bit of an update.
Okay.
So a year ago, I converted my American Airlines points to magazine subscriptions.
And haven't turned back since.
And I haven't regretted it one moment. Mm-hmm. If you haven't picked up a traditional magazine in a while, I encourage you to. They're a lot of fun. But there is a reason they're dying. It's because most of them are very shitty. So I got everything. I have Time magazine. I get that, which don't get that because that's just basically the internet, but like last week's internet.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that's bad. I get Southern Living, which you don't need to be Southern to get it, and it's definitely one of my favorites. They have great recipes.
I like the idea of Southern Living because what I'm getting from this magazine is that Southern Living is about taking it easy.
Yes.
And like referring back to our cult conversation, it's sort of a caftan and cake kind of situation. It might be my favorite. Okay. I also get Fortune magazine, which is another one that you definitely don't want to get because it's just stupid. You can't even muster more of a review than
and
that.
I get some travel magazines, and my travel magazines are probably my favorite. But
okay.
There's
like a Coastal Living one.
There's a Coastal Living one. I have Sunset magazine. I don't even know
what is Sunset
I don't even
magazine?
know what it's about.
I've never even heard of it.
I get Travel and Leisure. I get Condé Nast Travel, which Condé Nast Travel is great because it's like huge size and has really nice pictures. Mm-hmm.
Like an oversized magazine.
Overall, though, I do have some complaints about magazines. One, they have way too many words. Mm-hmm. People, and way too many words, and their pictures are way too small.
Okay.
I think magazines these days, because we're transitioning away from a print world, and you can read any article you want online, I think they need to be all pictures, mostly pictures.
Because this is a bigger format than your phone screen, so they need to capitalize on that. Is what you're saying. The advantages that they have.
There's something really nice about a picture that's actually printed. Mm-hmm. So big pictures, recipes are good because you already have it printed out to make it. I mean, I haven't made anything for a magazine, but the idea is good.
By the way, I would say that Martha Stewart, sidebar, surprisingly, has the best recipes because you'd think that they would
really
take like...
into Martha
No,
Stewart
you think that they would take... I've always been into Martha Stewart. Where you been? That like you think they would take like 6 hours and require a bunch of specialty ingredients, but they don't. They're actually very practical and time sensitive. Yeah, anyway, sorry.
I also like... perfume samples in my magazine.
No, you don't. Okay, I'm gonna fight you on that because they always just smell like paper.
Yeah, they have slight hints of things.
It's just like cardboard. It's just cardboard with
scented cardboard, and you rip them out. This is what you do: you rip them out, and then you tape it, or you carefully weave it through the back of your fan.
Oh my god, fan. I cannot fucking believe you right now. You're telling me you actually did that?
Yeah, do it all the time. And then you turn it on and you come back in your bedroom and it smells like just a little bit like something.
Oh my god. I am floored that you do this.
What?
Did you come up with that by your own self?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right.
That's a pro tip. Okay.
That is. I had never thought of that. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Our guest this episode is a very special guest indeed. It's Andrew's mom, Rhonda Woodbery. Rhonda talks to us about finding meaning in your career, pursuing social justice, maintaining friendships with Republicans, and her lifelong mission of uplifting women and how she achieves that through the unlikely means of being a partner of her own accounting firm. I'm so excited. We finally have Rhonda on the show.
Live and in person, my mother, a woman who is...
a legend.
Yeah.
In many
in
respects.
my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you.
Well, okay, so tell us about being a boss. Like, what are some challenges about being the person who's in charge, or some benefits,
Yeah,
or what pros and cons?
Well, what do you do? When did it happen? And take it from there.
Okay, well, I'm a CPA in a small firm in Asheville, North Carolina. It was something that I always wanted to be self-employed. Even when I would think about growing up, I always wanted to do my own thing. And there were several reasons why. When I first went into the workforce, it was in the early 70s, and it was a time when women were still not managers. I mean, there were school teachers, but the principals of the schools were male, and every boss I ever had was male, mm-hmm. and it was in every situation I would say to myself, things could be different, could be better. For me, if there were more women in management, because mm-hmm. our issues as women and how we manage and how we work it's just totally different than the way men operate. And so I knew early on in life that I wanted to figure out some way that I could have my own career and bring along young women, which was really what's always motivated me. My heart's always been for women. My girlfriends were always very important to me growing up, just other females in my life. And so that's really was always in the back of my mind. And I knew that the professions might possibly give me that opportunity. I knew I couldn't be a doctor because I'm not scientific. And so that left me with law and accounting. And so I didn't go right into college right after high school. I chose to get married and start a family. And after I had my children, I decided that if I was going to have to work, that I wanted to actually go back to college and become a professional. So that was really the motive. There were a couple of things. I was motivated because I wanted to be in a profession where I could work for myself and I could impact the lives of other people, other women in particular.
I think that's really forward thinking, though, not to interrupt the story, to be in a spot where you're thinking, look, I need to have a job, but then thinking ahead of, I could do so much more for others and for myself if I, instead of actually just getting a job right now that is going to serve my needs right now, but to take the time to actually go to school, because I imagine that was probably a sacrifice to to take the time to go to college when you had two small children at home.
It was, except there were some benefits unexpected benefits. Because at the time when I started back to school, I think that my children were like 2 and 6 at the time. I believe they were 2 and 6. And so one of the benefits was instill in them how important education was, because they saw that the sacrifice that we made as a family in order for me I worked a full-time job, and then it took me 5 years of night school to get my accounting degree, which meant that their father had to jump in and take care of them on the evenings that I had night school. And then there was a lot of studying because I wanted to do well in school, and I did do well in school. It was important to me. So that was one of the benefits. Some of the sacrificing was the time with the kids, family time. There weren't a lot of vacations. All that was postponed so that I could get through school. But I think it was worth it.
Oh,
in the end.
For sure.
I mean, I remember your graduation day. As I was 7 years old. It was the hottest day of the year. But I just remember being so proud of my mom for doing this thing,
Oh, that's so cute.
For working so hard.
So
and we watched her walk across the stage.
Graduation.
Yeah, it was outdoor graduation.
Oh, wow.
And I remember some people had heat exhaustion emergencies. But I remember standing in the shade under a tent, watching mom walk across the stage.
Because I was 37. I was one of the older students. Mm-hmm. And when it came time for graduation, several people said, "Oh, you're surely not going to walk across the stage." I said, "Oh, yes. I have worked
I am going to get that cap and gown.
Yes.
And be...
Yes, I'm doing it because it's okay if everybody else is 23, 24. I worked hard for this.
And so the aim from that time was always to be at the top of the food chain in terms of.
And I didn't want to be in a big firm either. I didn't want to work the big four, because I knew that it would be too hard for me to do what I wanted to do with my own life. Plus, it would be too hard for me to have the impact, because still a lot of rules that you have to follow, you know, in those environments. But if you have your own small firm, you can kind of set the tone, which is what we've done at Worley and Woodbery. We focus a lot on our staff, and try to meet the needs of their professional needs, and try to put them in situations where they can be successful.
So one of the questions that I was gonna ask, and now I feel like you've answered it kind of already, was about choosing the path of doing accounting, because I was kind of thinking about how Andrew and I are like doing our own sort of like non-traditional career path, and I think we're both very privileged to be in a position to consider like what is the thing that's our dream, what's the thing we really want to do, what is going to be like exciting and different, and you know, the next new thing, which I think is not really an attitude that certainly not that my parents share, and that I wonder whether there's a generational aspect to that of like the thing that you have to do versus like when, you know, my mom, the job that she does now was something that she had to do because we needed the money. She needed to make a career change in order to do that. So she doesn't really have any, other than the fact that like her job gives her a lot of flexibility. She has no real like passion for what it is that she's doing or anything. But that was because that was a thing that was a necessity, and that's something that just seems really normal to her like decision making, and that she finds weird about my decision making is that, you know, I'm catering more to like, what's the thing that I really like want to do.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, I was curious to hear about your perspective about that, but I feel like you've kind of addressed that already by saying really that it wasn't so much about the accounting per se, but more about the underlying desire to lift other people up and create a different type of
right, because I probably would not have picked accounting. I probably would have picked probably more of a psychology or a counseling careers. Probably would have been more of a natural fit for me, because I just really like to see people succeed.
And you found a different path to that.
And I found a different path to that, because at the time, because I had children and I knew that, and I did need the paycheck, but I also felt like that I could meet the need that I needed, which was to help people through helping small business owners, helping people with their careers, helping small business owners.
Meaning your clients.
My clients, because there's so many times particularly when you have new upstarts, they tend to not have very good cash flow because they're trying to get started. And some of the mistakes that they make is not budgeting properly for professional help, and that includes, you know, attorneys, bankers, accountants. And so what we did early on in the firm that I'm in now is we try to, when we sit down with an upstart, we sit down and say, these are the things that we think you need. This is the wish list, but these are the things that you have to have. And we need to help you figure out how you budget to get these three things. You have to have, you know, A, B, C. You can't do without that. So we're going to help you budget in a way that you're covered, because it's more important to us that they be successful than to walk away and say, I can't afford you, so, you know, I'm not gonna do anything.
Right.
So there's other ways that you can help people, even if you're in accounting and not like medicine or a help profession.
Absolutely.
So a traditional help profession like clergy, teacher.
Absolutely. I know, I love that idea. And I want to return to that idea of using your profession in sort of like almost a social justice way, no matter what it is. But because I think you touched on this a little bit, I want to continue on that. Sorry, I feel like I'm dominating the conversation.
No, go for it.
Is you're talking
It's my
about
mom,
having
I know
no, but like talking about having advice for small businesses. That was one of the things that I was curious about too. Is what is your advice for people who are pursuing non-traditional career paths? Because a lot of people in mine and Andrew's shoes, or our peers, we don't have this type of jobs where now we have access to sort of a traditional structure of a 401k and maybe the same health insurance models or whatever, or just anything. So, Andrew and I just started our business together. Say we walk in your door and, or any small business of that type. What is the A, B, and C that you're telling them that they need to have from, like, what's your advice, basically?
Well, the first thing I do is sit down and ask a new client, where do you see yourself in 3 years? What is your long-term plan? What's your 5-year plan? What's your 3-year plan? What's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? And just get them to talk about what it is that they're passionate about. Are you driven by money? Are you driven by what is it is this your passion? Is this going to be just a part-time job? Is this to put food on the table, or is this exactly what's going on here? But the main thing is to of course there's a tax return. There's always that component because that's just what we do. So one piece of it is that you have to have somebody do your tax return professionally. Mm-hmm. The other piece is tax planning. And tax planning, what that involves is how do I set aside for the future. So that would involve talking about things like retirement plans and is this going to be an internet-based company, or do you need office space? Just that's where we start. But the main thing is to have professionals that you can reach out to when you do have questions, and to pair yourself up with somebody that's willing to work with you. I mean, there are so many stories just in the last 10 years. I mean, we had an instance where, for example, a woman who happened to be a seamstress, but she also loved to hike on the Appalachian Trail.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so she would every year complain that her tent was just too heavy. So she decided that she was going to start designing her own tents to take on the trail because she was a seamstress and she was a hiker. So she developed this tent, and over time she was able to use different materials and develop a tent that now she sells. And 10 years later, not only does she sell it, but now they have a manufacturing facility and they have worldwide recognition with this tent. And that started out as a hobby. And so when we started working with her, we gave her reasonable fees, smaller fees, and when you're starting, you need less. Mm-hmm. And our philosophy is, if you do better, we'll do better, because this is where you are, this is all you can afford, and we're willing to do that because
we're going to grow together.
We're going to grow together because as you grow, mm-hmm. then we will too, and it's proven true over and over again.
If you were to start your firm tomorrow, fresh firm, what would you take away, with all the knowledge that you have?
If I were to start a new firm, I would first of all be more excited to hire people who brought things to the table that I didn't have. I like working in a collaborative situation better than a competitive situation. So know yourself. If you're a competitive person, understand that and know that when you're doing your own business. If you're a collaborator, then always be looking for those people out there who have something that they can add to your toolbox. Let them have their own toolbox and be happy that they have it. But that's what a collaborator will do, as opposed to a competitor who wants to know everything, which that's great if that's who you are, but know who you are. So I think that knowing that about myself sooner would have made it a lot easier, because a lot of times ended up in situations where it was just a field of competitors, which made me very anxious and very uncomfortable and very angry, because that's not how I work. So I am partnered with a collaborator, and it has worked beautifully.
And by that you just mean that you have complementary skills.
We have complementary skills, and we appreciate, he does things, some things better than I do, and we honor that. He will say, I do that better than you, so I'm going to do it. Or he'll say, you do that better than me, so why don't you take this? And it's a very comfortable situation to be able to say that, because so many times people don't want to hear, you don't do that as well as I do, so let me take that.
Well, and it's also being able to admit the things that you yourself aren't good at, which can be difficult.
Right.
I mean, especially if it's with someone you don't trust. Like, you have to trust somebody a lot to say, I'm not good at this, I can't do that. So I think that's important.
So I think that's something I wish I had learned earlier, and just not... and just moved in a different direction sooner. Sometimes I stayed in situations longer than I needed to as a professional, because it's just you don't grow. If you're spending all your time being anxious and upset, then you're not really growing in the right direction. And so I think that's really important.
The ability to make a change.
The ability to make a change.
Okay, I want to pivot back to the activism kind of. Maybe that's not quite the right word, but so I have heard many stories over the years from Andrew about his childhood growing up with a opinionated justice, I think, is like the most like descriptive word about your belief system, and like even just about like small things. Like, there are a lot of funny stories about like, being at the grocery store, and
if my mother is anything, she's outspoken and
very fair-minded
and about justice related issues, and when she sees injustice, I don't think I've ever seen her hold her tongue,
back away from a fight.
No. And a fight sounds more combative than it really is. It's just a passion that bubbles up uncontrollably.
But I think, though, like, when you were maybe of a certain age, it was like...
I mean, okay, yeah, to be honest, I mean, I grew up with a mom that, like, always said the thing and ruffled the feathers. I mean, we grew up in a small southern town that is very conservative. So, that didn't really help, because she didn't really have that many allies. You just have some. Although, and we will get to this later, interestingly, you did have a lot of friends from
across the aisle.
Across the aisle.
I did.
So you're like a likable person who everyone felt they could be like, Rhonda, do you really have to raise that as an issue? Like, we're friends. Do you really have to like ruffle people's feathers?
And like, I mean, I think like for one example that comes to the top of my mind was, your feeling that the school districts were being unfairly sort of redrawn around racial lines,
around economic
lines, perhaps.
Economic,
okay,
yes.
And that basically they were like, oh, it's okay, your kids can come to like the nice school, and you were like, no. The school board line is right here. My kids are going to this other school just because it's fair and because it's right. I remember that.
I will say that a lot of people were not very happy at my mother for
kicking up the dust about it.
Because they moved the neighborhood. I mean, they moved the
entire neighborhood back over,
and so,
which made some of my neighbors unhappy, but it wasn't right.
But I think that's notable, because it wasn't right, it wasn't just. But I think a lot of people would find it easier to just say, well, I'm going to benefit from this thing that's like, when you're benefiting from the unfair thing. I think a lot of people have trouble speaking up about that. If the thing shakes out in their favor. So I think it takes a lot of gumption to, when you're actually benefiting from something, to speak up and say like, hey, actually, even though I'm kind of getting the good end of the stick here, like it's not fair. Like, and okay, so I have maybe an inkling about this, but where do you think that your like sense of like justice comes from?
Where does that come from?
I think part of it is just who you are to some degree, but I do think that part of my ability to do that is rooted in the house that I grew up in that even though my parents had a traditional marriage, in the fact that my mom was a stay-at-home mom and my dad worked, my parents were equals in terms of the way that they ran the household. My dad listened to my mother, and she had opinions. My mother had very strong opinions, and so that was modeled, and he listened to her, and we were permitted to have opinions at home.
This is so interesting to think about in relation to the way you and your mom, the relationship you and your mom had, which was not a smooth one.
Not at all.
But to think about her opinionated nature and the way your father, like my granddad, related to it as being like a example, it's just interesting. Because you didn't get along with your mom.
No, we were very different. We were very different because my mother was very artistic, very, she was opinionated, very opinionated too. And she was a very 50s mom. And so what was important to her to some degree was, and one example was that I was very resistant to wearing makeup. I just didn't see any need to wear makeup. I just didn't want to. And so her way of getting me to wear more makeup was, you're just not pretty enough to get away to not wear makeup. You'll never get a date if you don't wear makeup. But that was just that whole mindset. So that when those things would creep in, that's where we didn't.
Right.
What was going on at the time, in hindsight now, and now that I don't have her anymore, and is that I realized was that those were very beneficial things for me. For her to say those things to me that only reinforced my feeling that those things were not that true. Important or not true.
But I think that clearly she succeeded in allowing you the space to push back on, that somehow that I think in a way that adversarial sort of relationship is a sign of her success in raising somebody who is allowed to have strong opinions and can push back on that.
Yeah, so I think those things make you have when you have permission to have a strong voice or a permission to know things that other people I think that was it.
Or there's not embarrassment around.
There's not embarrassment.
I mean, we were never embarrassed to ask you a question or be curious about things, and you were never shameful to explain things, even if they were things that you didn't agree with, or wasn't things, not even that you didn't agree with, just like a way of life that you didn't prescribe to. It was like, oh, that's what other people do, but you're never like, oh, that's what we don't do that, other people do that. We don't think that way. It was always very much about you could do that.
I can remember some of the questions that, I can remember you in particular saying, why do I have to go to church? I don't know why I have to go to church every Sunday. And my answer to that was simple. It was because I want you to be able to choose. I want you to be able to choose whether you want to be a religious person or not, or whether you want to be a Christian. And if I don't take you to church, what are you going to choose from? And so that was, so he never asked that question again, because I think he understood I'm giving you information, and you're not going to be able to make a good choice if you don't have the right information. So I think it's important for that reason, and for no other reason. You need this information. And that's kind of how my parents did too. It was like, you need this information. You need to read this book. You're curious, so
takes all the power out of everything. It's sort of disappointing as a child to not have anything that's incredibly taboo or forbidden. You just take it all away.
That's
Yeah,
it's kind of funny actually.
like womp womp.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the things that happened with Andrew was that he was a very stubborn child.
Was?
Well, he is a stubborn.
Sorry.
Thanks,
And
guys.
so to
Love you.
discipline him, we had to be very creative because he just is not affected a lot by that.
What would you do?
And so when it came time, I knew that when it came time to have a curfew for him, that might be an issue because he would challenge those types of things. Not that he was a bad kid, he wasn't, but he would challenge those things.
Like why?
And so do you remember
Doesn't make sense.
we had no curfew?
No
and
curfew.
You said that was a lot of pressure because along with the no curfew was that you only got one chance to mess up. He didn't get but one chance to mess up. If he did anything that got him in trouble, like, drinking and driving or
Whatever, yeah.
And plus I knew where we lived that nobody else would let their kids not have a curfew. So what was he going to do when everybody else went home?
Oh, there was the strategy.
You're so crafty. So my mom, from always, really always, has always had a large friend group. When we were growing up, we went to church religiously every Sunday and other days of the week. My mom was the youth pastor for a while. She was a financial director or manager of the church for a while, and even up until today, she has a lot of friends from just all walks of life. I remember just having, her always. There was just always friends around, always women around who were, of every walk of life, not just professionals, not just white collar. I mean, it was just ran the gamut. And as a child, it's just like a normal part of your life. That's just, you don't know how other families live or how other people live. I knew that my dad didn't have that sort of spread of friends. But it was later until when I grew up, and then especially as we've headed into a more contentious political climate where, a lot of friendships and family relationships have been tested over the past couple of years, that I've really been able to reflect backwards on all of these relationships with women that you've maintained throughout the years, and your just relationships with those now of people you maintain relationships with friends that you really care about that could not be more different in their point of view and their perspective, their political leanings. Can
I just take a quick sidebar here?
Yeah.
First of all, for everybody out there, Rhonda Woodbery is the MVP Facebook friend that you will ever friend. She's my favorite person on Facebook. Brightens my social media experience on a daily basis. This is a fact. Best person that you could ever friend. So I encourage everyone to friend her immediately. But
watch her fuck with people.
I'm continually impressed with the doggedness with which you are willing to put your beliefs out there, even knowing that right? When you put something up that somebody's gonna have something to say about it. People are gonna.
She knows, and she laughs her ass off.
And watch all the people get whipped into a froth.
I do.
And you're calmly wading through the comments.
We had one this week.
Responding to everything patiently, calmly, but firmly. It's just a delight to witness this. I just want to say that really quickly. But seriously, I really struggle with this a lot, and I'm very curious about this question that Andrew's posed, because I do find that I have quite a echo chamber of friends where I agree with them a lot, and I struggle a lot, especially in recent times, troubled times that we're in, about how to engage with people that I'm right now. I kind of feel like, fuck it, it's hopeless. Like, I can't talk to people that I don't feel have some sort of shared moral ground. Yeah, and so I'm really impressed and in awe of what you kind of do that on a daily basis, and I just want to know your wisdom about that, because.
Well, I think it's hard. It's hard for me too. Sometimes I get really angry. I get not so much angry about a difference of opinion, because I love debate. I mean, I love to hear other ideas. And I've always been open to other ideas because I want to be in check. It gives me a way to check my own biases or my own weaknesses in the way that I think about things. So that part I love. What I don't like is when there's an attack element. So yes, sometimes I'm bothered by that. But what I've learned is just try to stick to the subject, to whatever it is that the issue is. When you're talking to friends, when they try to take you down different paths of discussion, when you're talking about something that you don't agree on, is to bring it back to really what the real underlying issues are. And what tends to happen with my friends, the close friends that I have differences with, a lot of times what you'll uncover, what they will reveal to you and to themselves when they do it, and I do this too, I will reveal something to them and to myself, the root of really what the bias is, which is how I've maintained those really close relationships, because we will take the time to go through well, what did you mean by that exactly, and what is that rooted in? And a lot of times they'll talk about, it's always about personal experience,
So it comes down to something like that's very individual.
That's very individual to you as to why maybe you don't agree with this or you don't agree with that. And I don't know. My interest is really in understanding people. I've always just had this real need to understand.
But also I just like to go further in that though, is that you are very public about publicizing your views, which I think is really important because you are a very liberal voice in a place that is, I mean, you live in a pretty liberal town now, but generally, like especially in the digital sphere, it's like you have a conservative sort of group of people around you, and I think it's so important when you're sort of the dissenting voice around you to be vocal about that, because what you're doing is you're normalizing those types of views for people who, unlike you're very willing to take an unpopular viewpoint that you think is just and you think is fair and you think is right, but not everybody's like that. So I think it's really important to have people like you who are saying, no, it's totally normal to self-identify as a feminist and have these different viewpoints and be very aware of racial issues and LGBT issues and all these things, and being very vocal about that, because I think it models for other people that this is a normal way of thinking. This is totally normal. When you're surrounded by people who maybe don't feel that way, it's hard for people sometimes to realize that, oh, this is a way that I could be. This is, without having somebody modeling that. So I think, I mean, I accept what you're saying about it being about understanding other people, but to me it feels like there's more to that it's not, if it was just about understanding other people, maybe you might not be so vocal about putting your own views out there. Like, I don't know,
I think I'm pretty thick-skinned too when it comes to I think I accept the fact that people don't necessarily have to like you or like what you stand for.
Yes.
I'm willing to take that chance that maybe I might be heard and maybe it will make a difference in the world at large. I think maybe is why.
I think you're the most convicted person when it comes to whatever that I've ever seen. You were just convicted. So when you decide to say something, you were so convicted that it's just like a tidal wave of conviction, and that point.
And the people who disagree with you, and I've noticed, and this is just my observation from your sort of online conversations, they might not come away necessarily with their minds changed, but they will be like, it generally ends on a respectful note that, like, okay, that's what you believe in. And,
yes, and I will say this, I know that it's for you to respond to, that has been true. My entire experience with my mom is this crazy mix of like being the one that's saying the thing that no one wants her to say, being the one that's like raising her hand, it's like, but excuse me, and I was like, Rhonda, if you could just shut the fuck up, that'd be great. and then me being like, oh God, everyone's gonna hate her, and then like turning around and be like hugging her and being like,
thank you so much
thank
for
you.
sharing.
But on the other hand, she is doing the same to those people. There were times when it's like, someone at church or someone at school or something, she's like, bitching about somebody, oh, well, blah, blah, blah. It's like, she's just like this and that and the other. And then I think, okay, we're not supposed to like that person. So I'm like, okay, well, we're not supposed to. And then she'll be like, yeah, but, she does have that great ability to bring people together. And she does have this thing. And then I would just be so fucking confused. She just
Gray area.
She just bitched about her, but then she'd turn around and be like, but isn't she great in the way she can do that?
Well, we should wrap up soon.
Yes.
But one just sort of end cap on this, and it just kind of returns back to what you were saying earlier about your whole sort of career pointing towards uplifting women and the female relationships in your life. Can you talk a little bit more about that, about like what the importance of your female relationships and your friendships? Because even now it seems like you have a very strong like lady crew,
lady gang.
I do have a lady gang. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Folly Girls.
Oh, there's
a name.
We have a name.
Yes.
We have a name. But I have a lot more friends than just those. But those are my go-to girls. Mm-hmm. Like I said, even as from a young age, girls, girlfriends have been a big part of my life. Huge. And I don't know why. I think some women have better relationships with other women than some women do. Mm-hmm. And I don't really know why, but I've always been drawn to a circle of friends. They keep me grounded. They keep me honest. They're supportive. You can have all the emotions with other females, or I can. You can cry together, you can laugh together, you can see the humor in the raising of children together, and your relationships with men, and that's some funny stuff.
Are the other 8? They're in different. Like, are they married?
Some are married, some are divorced, some are widowed.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's sort of in a different stage.
Yes, all of them have great stories. But I think women in general have great stories. I mean, I'm sure men do too. But I think that I think that women just have not been heard in the way that they're being heard now. Mm-hmm. And I'm so happy about that. When I know where I came from and the struggles that I had as a young female between the ages of 16 and 35, and the different choices that my granddaughters are going to have because of the things that I've done and other women have done to pave a path. So they have different choices, and that's exciting to me. I want to live long enough to see all that. Where women are, that it's just that nobody thinks about that a female's president of the United States. It's just, that's what it is.
It's normal.
It's just a normal thing. And that women run big companies, or they don't. They stay home and raise children. That we can choose whatever we want.
Okay, well, thank you so much for taking the time. So we do have some cake to eat, but I do want to give you the opportunity to tell one embarrassing story about Andrew.
Embarrassing story about.
It doesn't have to be embarrassing. It could be a nice story. It could be a celebratory story about Andrew too.
I'd prefer celebratory, but
any sort of story.
I guess it was a little dull. It wasn't that exciting.
No, he was a great kid. It was a lot of fun to raise, challenging because he was such a smart kid. Had to be one step ahead of him all the time.
And she was.
And I was.
Get that
down. I think one of the things that I loved. Well, I can tell you something that I really, okay. When Andrew started middle school,
I have no idea where this is going.
We were complete. I was as a mom. I kept thinking, he needs something besides sports. What can it be? What can it be? And so when he started middle school and he started singing in the choir chorus, I knew that was what we needed to be doing. And I never will forget the very first concert that I went to hear him sing. And I don't know, were you in 6th or 7th grade?
Seventh grade.
7th grade chorus in the lunchroom. And so they have them all lined up, they're going to sing. And when he started singing and his face lit up I just cried because it was so precious. Because it was, I knew that was music, art, that was who he was. What was like a neon sign. Have I ever told you
No,
that?
No.
It was the cutest thing ever.
Oh.
Oh.
He was just
I was smiling.
Smiling and yeah.
Still has the voice of an angel. So
Yes, he
start
does.
of a good thing.
Well, Mom, I've had the best week with you here. And thank you for indulging us in this little conversation.
This is a dream.
So
We love
sweet.
you.
And I love you forever.
I love
Let's
you.
eat cake.
Let's eat cake.
Yay.